Hi guys, so I thought I'd do something different tonight just for shits and giggles. I've seen a couple of other channels attempt something similar to this, but this is my version. So welcome to my World Cup of Horror sequels, and if the thumbnail wasn't clear enough, I mean only sequels which are the second film in a horror franchise. All of these films that I'm going to be talking about tonight are films which I own. Let me also put that out there. So let me explain to you how this is going to work. In this bowl I have got the names of 32 films which are the second films in their franchise. I'm going to be pulling them out two at a time, and then those two films will face off against each other, which basically means me deciding which one is the best of the two and is therefore worthy of going through to the next round. We will keep repeating until we have 16 films left, and so on until finally at the end of the video I will declare once and for all what is the best second film in a horror franchise, which I just happen to own. Nobody cares, but this is all just a lark. So let's go with it and see what happens. This should be fun. Right, let's crack on with round one. Right, let's crack on with it then. I will give these a good shake and we will see which two films come out first. So first up we have 28 Weeks Later, and that will be facing off against Inferno, the Dario Argento film, which is the sequel to Suspiria, going up against 28 Weeks Later. Tough match to start the competition off. I just about favour Inferno. I think I've just got into these films quite recently. I saw this film at the cinema. I've seen it a couple more times since then, but not for a while. It's quite close, but I'm going with Inferno. Next up, we have Paranormal Activity 2. Against Jaws 2. So let's see. Paranormal Activity 2, Jaws 2. Now, this is not one of my favourites of this particular franchise, but I'm not the biggest Jaws 2 fan. I actually prefer Jaws 3. But I have to say, I prefer this film. When it comes to Jaws, I only really like 1 and 3. I think number 2 was really copying the first movie, just without the good characters of the first film, whereas this at least is very consistent in terms of its quality from the first Paranormal Activity. So this one's going through. Jaws drowns in the first round. Next up we have Demons 2 against Insidious 2. So here we have Demons. It's a two-film pack, but Demons 2 is in there. Here's Insidious 2. This is another really tough matchup. Very, very hard. I've reviewed Demons 2, watched it not too long ago. It's been a while since I watched Insidious 2. I'm going to go with Demons 2. Insidious goes home. Next up we have Evil Dead 2 against Resident Evil Apocalypse. Let's see where I put those. Resident Evil Apocalypse. Where are you, Evil Dead 2? There we are. This one's a bit more straightforward for me. Evil Dead 2 is not one of my favourites of this franchise. The continuity is all over the place. I prefer the more serious Evil Dead 1 personally, and the remake to this. Resident Evil Apocalypse, absolutely one of the better movies in that franchise. So I am going to go for Resident Evil Apocalypse. Next up we have Blair Witch Project 2 going up against Saw 2. So where have I got Saw? And for me, this is the most straightforward encounter of the first round so far. Garbage, classic. Saw is going through. Next up, we have Wolf Creek 2 against Wreck 2. So there's Wolf Creek 2, Wreck 2. Both inferior to their original films, I would say, although I think the downgrade with Wolf Creek 2 is steeper. I prefer Wreck 2, I think. So I'm going to put Wreck 2 through, although I will say if this had been Wolf Creek 1 against Wreck 1, Wolf Creek 1 probably would have won, but that's not the game, baby. It's all about sequels. So Wreck 2 is going through. Wolf Creek is lost in the desert. Next up, we have Tremors 2, which I have as part of this trilogy box set. And Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, which I can assure you is inside this, even though it doesn't specifically say Nightmare on Elm Street 2. It's part of a weird 7-film collection. So, two weird-looking versions of their respective movies coming out to face each other. I have to say, I like Tremors 2 way more than I like Freddy's Revenge, which in my opinion is one of the weaker of the earlier Freddy movies. So this one's going home. Tremors 2, despite not having Kevin Bacon, is going through to the last 16. We've got The Zombie Diaries 2 against The Mummy 2. The Zombie Diaries 2, aka World of the Dead. The Mummy 2 is actually called The Mummy Returns. I didn't used to like The Mummy Returns. It's got better for me on most recent watch. Tricky, but I'm going to go with The Zombie Diaries 2. Probably one of the lesser known films in this video today, but if you've never seen any of the Zombie Diaries films, give them a chance. They're very, very good. So The Mummy is going back into its tomb. Zombie Diaries goes through. Next up, we have Puppet Master 2 against Wrong Turn 2. This one's quite straightforward for me. I like Puppet Master 2. It's the only Puppet Master film I've ever seen, funnily enough. But Wrong Turn 2 is such a fun movie. I really, really enjoy it. I wish they would release a better version of it than this crappy DVD, because the picture quality is not very good on this, it has to be said. But Wrong Turn 2 is still a more fun movie than Puppet Master 2, just about, with a little bit of wriggle room, actually. So this one's going through. The puppets are going back in the box. Next up, we have VHS 2 against Piranha 2. So now there are a couple of different Piranha 2s I could have gone for, but I've gone for the original Piranha 2, The Spawning, going up against VHS 2. I'm going to go for the horror anthology this time. I actually only watched VHS Viral for the first time the other night, but me and this film go back a lot further. I probably prefer the first VHS, to be honest, but still very good quality. Piranha 2 The Spawning is nowhere near as good as the original Piranha from '78, so on the whole, quite a comfortable one. VHS 2 is into the next round. Next up, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 against 47 Meters Down Uncaged. Now, some people are going to hate me for this, but I really, really do not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Whereas 47 Meters Down Uncaged is a very fun shark movie, not one of the best ever made, probably, but I like it. I don't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's really that simple. So probably the biggest shock result of the night so far, but that's just me. I'm putting this one through, going home, so to speak. Back to the shelf. Next up we have The Hills Have Eyes 2, and similar to what I did with Piranha, it's the original Hills Have Eyes 2, not the remake version. And that will be going up against Silent Hill 2. What a weird coincidence. The two hills, that's pretty cool. It's come out that way. Silent Hill Revelation, I should have said. The Hills Have Eyes 2, that is a nice little matching of the hills that's come out. Neither of these movies are very good. Let's just get it out there. But this one is slightly better. So I've just reviewed this actually, and it's going into the losers pile. Next up we have Dawn of the Dead. So the second film in Romero's long-running epic zombie series, going up against Deep Blue Sea 2. I like Deep Blue Sea 2. It's a fun movie, in my opinion, better than the first Deep Blue Sea. Probably not a lot of people would agree with me on that, but yeah, it's good. I like it, but it's not as good as Dawn of the Dead. I mean, this is frigging awesome. This has been one of my favourite films since I was a teenager. This could go very far today. So yeah, sorry Deep Blue Sea 2. Dawn of the Dead goes through. It doesn't feel like there's many pieces of paper left at this point for the round one matches. Next up we have The Descent 2. Going up against... Ooh, it's one of the biggies. Friday the 13th, Part 2. Now, if this had been Friday 2 against The Descent Part 1, that could have been a very interesting matchup, but The Descent 2 is for die-hard fans of the first Descent only, i.e. me. But objectively, Friday 2 is the better film. So Jason is going through, and The Descent is going home. Next up we have, we've only got two matches left actually. One of them is this film, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, against The Conjuring 2. Ooh, two really good films. Really good films. Oh, I like both of these. Really like both of these. I'm going to go for The Conjuring 2, just for the fact that I think this is actually slightly better than the first one. I don't think I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is better than the first one. It's slightly down on that, so maybe for that reason I'm going to go for The Conjuring 2. And also I think when I've reviewed both of these films, I'm pretty sure I gave The Conjuring 2 a slightly higher score as well. So yeah, The Conjuring 2, and I'm afraid I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is going home. So there's only two pieces of paper left in here. They are Halloween 2. Of course Halloween was in here somewhere. And that means that the other film is Underworld Evolution. Now, this is trickier than might first appear, because let's face it, this is not the original Halloween. And depending on your tastes, Underworld Evolution is a very good movie. So, you know what? I think we've found one of the hardest matches for the final match of the first round. Two completely different types of horror movie. Very tight, very tight. Halloween's my favourite franchise out of the two, no doubt about it, but this is one of the better Underworld films. This is not one of the best Halloween films. Shall we take a short intermission? No, no, no. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Halloween 2. Right, let's move on to the round of 16. Right, I guess we are ready to continue. During that little intermission, I have reset all the pieces of paper that are required for this round. So let's get into it and find out who's going first. So we have The Hills Have Eyes 2 against Halloween 2. Now, Halloween 2 scraped through the first round by the skin of its teeth. Really had to give it the benefit of the doubt. How weird then that in round 2 it's going to get a very easy ride against this Hills Have Eyes sequel, which is nowhere near as good as the first one. This is a very easy match to start this round off. I thought all the matches would get a lot tighter from this point on, but not yet, seemingly. So Michael Myers is our first film, or should I say Halloween 2 is our first film through to the quarterfinals. Next up, we have Wrong Turn 2 against Dawn of the Dead. So again, to be honest, quite an easy one for me because I think Dawn of the Dead is such a classic film. Wrong Turn 2 is good, sure, entertaining, funny, barrel of laughs, but Dawn of the Dead is the strongest of these two films. So this one's going through, and this is the last we are going to see of Wrong Turn 2 today. Next up, let's see what we've got next. Demons 2 against Resident Evil Apocalypse. So, right, difficult. Both of these are very good, very good. I'm going to have to think about this one. I'm just going to go for Resident Evil Apocalypse, just. So next we have Rec 2 going up against The Zombie Diaries 2. So two found footage zombie films coming out to face each other. I've got to say Zombie Diaries 2 is more original than Rec 2. It's entirely its own thing compared to the first Zombie Diaries. Rec 2 is very similar to the first Rec. It's not particularly original. But I still think Rec 2 just about shades it, but it's very, very tight, very tight. But Rec 2 is going through to the quarterfinals. I might not have expected Rec 2 to get to the quarterfinals at the start of all this, so this is interesting. Next up we have Tremors 2 going up against Saw 2. This is a tough one as well. But ultimately, one of these films is my favourite in the franchise and the other one is only my second favourite in the franchise. I think that's going to make all the difference here. Saw 2 absolutely blew me away when I first saw it. None of the other Saw films since then have done it for me like this one did. Tremors 2 is hugely underrated. I don't think enough people know just how good a sequel this is. I think they just refuse to watch it because it doesn't have Kevin Bacon in it, but definitely the best Tremors sequel. These two films are not a million miles away, but I'm sending Saw 2 through to the quarterfinals. Next up, we have VHS 2 to play 47 Meters Down Uncaged. Ooh, tough again. It's tight. I like both of these films. Ooh, I'm just going on feel. You know what? I'm going to send 47 meters down uncaged through to the quarterfinals in a very, very tight match. Very, very tight. So a bit of an upset that this film is going through to the last 8 from the 32 that we started off with, but there we have it. Next up, we have Inferno against The Conjuring 2. Ooh, bruiser of a matchup. This might just be the match of the second round so far, possibly. Two films I absolutely love. I think Conjuring 2 just about shades it. Just about shades it, but this is an excellent sequel to Suspiria. Really, really good. I thought it might go further than this round, but it came up against a behemoth in The Conjuring 2, so there we go. And there's only 2 pieces of paper, just 2 left in the bowl. Paranormal Activity 2 and Friday the 13th Part 2. One of the easier matches of the second round. I don't think Paranormal Activity as a franchise was served that well by having the second film be its representative, whereas Friday 2, pretty awesome. So Jason's going through, the ghosts are going home. It's time for our quarterfinal stage. Are we going to get that Jason Michael punch up that everybody's yearning to see? Well, let's find out. Let's draw the next 2 names. Okay, I've got 2 pieces of paper out of those. First one is The Conjuring 2 going up against Dawn of the Dead. Wow. Oh man, these are 2 cracking films. Absolutely cracking films. Not easy when we get to this stage. It was never going to be easy at this stage. But I think Dawn of the Dead is a masterpiece. The Conjuring 2 is a smidgen short of being a masterpiece, so Dawn of the Dead goes through. Okay. Next up we have 47 meters down against Rec 2. Boy, I have no idea off the top of my head. Both good films, not outstanding films. I don't know. I really don't know. You know what? I'm going to have to give it to 47 meters down, uncaged, because it's different from the first film. It tries new things. Rec 2 is a good film, very samey, I guess, to the first one. So, unbelievably, perhaps, 47 meters down, uncaged is going through to our semi-finals. I never would have predicted that at the start of the night. Surely it can't go any further. Right, we have 4 names in the hat. 2 of them are Jason and Michael. Here we go, Halloween 2. What is the other one? It's Friday the 13th, Part 2, wouldn't you know it? We've got a quarter-final matchup to end all quarter-final matchups. Halloween 2 against Friday the 13th, Part 2. This is what you paid for. So, well, when all's said and done, though, it's actually one of the easier matchups because I like Friday 2 way more than Halloween 2. Halloween is probably my favourite franchise out of the 2, but Friday 2 is just better. Friday 2 is like top tier Friday. Halloween 2 is at best middle of the road Halloween, so for all the fanfare about this matchup, it's fairly easy for me. Friday 2 goes through, although it does make me sad because, like I said, Halloween is my favourite franchise out of the two, but it feels like Halloween should be going further than the quarterfinals in the same week that Halloween Kills is coming out, but hey ho. Right, so we've got 2 films left. They must be, by process of elimination, Resident Evil, Apocalypse, and Saw 2. Tight, very tight. I think Resident Evil Apocalypse is just about my favourite of these 2 films. And I think this is a feeling which has come on in the last 2 or 3 years from rewatches. I think this matchup a few years ago, before Saw fatigue started to kick in, I think Saw 2 might have had the edge a few years ago. I think right now, I think Resident Evil has definitely overtaken Saw in my heart and my mind. So, yeah, Resident Evil Apocalypse is through to the semis. Time to reset again for those semi-finals. So I'm just going to do the semi-finals and the final in one continuous take. I don't need to put the pieces of paper back in the bowl for the final. So let's dip in and find out what our semi-final lineups are. First name out the hat is Resident Evil Apocalypse. And that will be going up against Dawn of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead is the winner by quite a comfortable margin, I think. So there we go. Dawn of the Dead is through to the final. Resident Evil Apocalypse goes out in the semi-finals, which means by process of elimination, it must be the other 2 films for the semi-final. Friday the 13th Part 2 against our rampaging Emma Raducanu-esque underdog, 47 metres down, uncaged. How has it got this far? I guess that's the beauty of knockout play. But here we are. So let's try and make this as dramatic as possible. So, let me think. This one or this one? I guess we'll have to go for Friday 2, won't we? So, you did very well. Right, time for the final, and it's a bruiser. Friday the 13th Part 2 against Dawn of the Dead. I'm not going to drag this on all night. I'm not surprised, I guess, that Friday 2 has made the final. It's one of my favourite franchises. Friday Part 2 is actually one of my favourite Friday films. Dawn of the Dead. I must admit, I was thinking about this video earlier today when I was at work, and a few films rolled around in my head that might win the title, and Dawn of the Dead didn't actually cross my mind until much later on in the day when I started getting the films off the shelf, and then I thought, oh, that's bound to go far. And ultimately, when all's said and done, Dawn of the Dead is going to be the winner. Friday the 13th gets the runners-up medal. Wonderful film. I've never actually reviewed it, maybe one day, but I've loved this since I was a teenager. It is, I guess, my favourite second film in a horror franchise, at least of the ones that I own, although I don't think there's any that I don't own that would have beaten this. The eagle-eyed among you may notice there was no Scream 2 in this competition. I don't own it. I like Scream 2. It wouldn't have beaten this. I'll tell you that for nothing. Child's Play 2 is another notable absentee. I don't think it would have gone that far. Sorry, any Child's Play fans, although I don't think it would have gone that far through the rounds. So this, I think, was a worthy winner. This was a lot of fun. So I guess cheerio for today. Bye-bye.